Good afternoon, folks. We are live once again. Let me get everything switched over to the right layout, and we will see if we can come up with some interesting ideas in today's drawing stream. There we go. I'm just taking a look at the BGM playback. We'll leave it about there. Shouldn't be too loud. How's everyone doing today? I see Red Dragon's here. What's up, Red Dragon? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a decent Sunday. Been practicing that Radon fight since yesterday. It was definitely a challenge. Alright, so what are we going to be doing today? Today's drawing session is going to be a bit more freeform compared to some of the other ones. I've mentioned in the past how my main kind of strength, if you want to call it that, in drawing is creature design and concepts, more so than like humanoid characters. We've done a lot of humanoid type character studies here on the channel as well, and we'll definitely be doing more in the future. But my background has always been like non-humanoid, either like alien or demonic type creature designs. So today I wanted to just kind of experiment around with some ideas and keep it freeform, and maybe I can use some of these designs for something in the future. Red Dragon says, nope, been looking at tips for it. We need to stay close to them and have the shadow tree at 20. 20 blessings. I don't know what we're at now, because I just started using all the last of the ones I got in our last session. I don't think it's 20. I got to be at like maybe around 10, close to you if you're at 12. So that's interesting. We may have to go out and explore the rest of the map and come back to that fight then, or just try and like power through it. Alright, so I've got an idea on how to start here. Because I don't have any specific idea in mind for what I want to draw creature-wise, instead I want to experiment around with some basic pose primary shapes to see kind of like a body type or something that we're going to actually start sketching out. So we'll start with simple shapes and see what kind of emerges from here. I thought about doing like a random creature generator, which we've done in the past, but I didn't have time to really look for one. So instead, I think we'll just brainstorm some ideas. The dragon says I'm looking around the map for some gear. Oh, okay. That's a good idea too. If you ever find any points of interest that would have some useful stuff that'll help us out in that fight, we can always do like a side trip and then loop back to the fight itself. This might be a little bit too upright for something more creature-esque. Almost looks like it's got kind of dinosaur proportions, and that was not my intent. we could go for something. I'm gonna do a bunch of kind of combinations of shapes here on the canvas, so I'm not necessarily going to be starting and stopping with the same one each time. But I had another idea for something that'd be a bit more worm-like. Here, let me put my mic a little out of the way. I keep hitting it with my pen. I have this other idea for kind of like a, not the sandworm. I've never read or watched Dune, but something that has kind of like a sandworm-esque type head, but do some kind of fun stuff with the body to give it more of kind of an otherworldly or even Lovecraftian type of theme. And one way to potentially do that if we zoom in a little bit, I imagine these would be kind of like gripping mandibles or something that allows this thing to eat. All right. But on the inside of the appendages, closer to the base, the actual eyes, it allows this thing to see. And taking this idea and kind of fleshing it out a little bit, if we're going to run with this one for potential design, I like to think that this thing would burrow through the ground. It'd be like a subterranean type of creature. But when it's not surfaced and actually trying to eat something, these appendages would close together to protect the mouth as it bores through the ground. And so if we look at it from the side, this is sort of the base of the head. It would look kind of like this. Very kind of rough approximation of all of the appendages closed together to seal the mouth, which is over here. If you look at it from an x-ray, the mouth and the teeth would be on the inside like that. But all these things here would be closed together and it'd function kind of like a drill. And this thing probably would navigate through sound or maybe scent. And so it drills through the ground like that, and then when it actually needs to eat something, it'll open up and unfurl everything. Which could be a fun concept. If we were to run with this particular type of design, you could do something like give it a lot of smaller appendages, legs, kind of like a centipede or a millipede. And that would sort of facilitate how this thing would be moving around underground. Kind of unlike the first one, instead of doing just a regular rough primary, I'm actually putting in some specific sketched out details to kind of run with the idea. So if you think of the kind of central plane down the front of the body like this, and this is where the legs kind of start going along the underside. I think this design's got some potential. I like to think the body itself would probably be very kind of sleek. And maybe not scaly, but kind of segmented like a centipede as well, in order for it to kind of facilitate moving smoothly through the ground to burrow. And for those of you tuning in, I don't know if you have centipedes where you live. We do have them where I live, but they don't get super large. They're really kind of small, and they tend to stick to like the wilderness and like the underbrush. They don't really get in your house super often, but sometimes they do. And usually the ones that we have here are kind of the little ones. They look like that. Not too crazy. I have been to Hawaii, and the centipedes they have there, which are a lot more common, do not mess around and are much more creepy than the ones we have where I live here on the West Coast. If I shouldn't have erased that. Let's use that as an example, as a sidebar real quick. Alright, so if this really crude approximation of centipede is what we have where I live, in Hawaii, the ones they have comparatively would be like this. They are considerably larger. We're talking like, I've seen some that are like 6 inches, maybe like 4 or 5 inches long. And they tend to stick around in the underbrush too, eat things outside. But every once in a while, they get in the house, and you do not want these things in your house because they will just show up in the most inconvenient places. They have these long antennae and bitey jaws. And unlike these little ones where I live, which are kind of just there, if I see them, I probably am not gonna just ignore them. I'll probably take them out because I don't want them getting somewhere where it's going to be annoying. But the large Hawaiian centipedes over there tend to feed on a lot of things indoors, and the real problem is when they get into your living space, because they're not dangerous, they're not going to put you in the hospital or anything, but they have a very, very painful bite. I think all centipedes can bite. Little ones are probably not as much of a risk of hurting people, but these big ones will absolutely make your day less pleasant if they bite you. And I've heard stories of people I know who lived in Hawaii and other parts of the world too. They have these larger centipedes, and the big problem is like when they get in your bed, they just kind of end up in there, and next thing you know, you're having to deal with that. That's not fun. But outside of having to deal with a real centipede problem, I do think they're cool creatures. They're cool arthropods. And so we'll see what kind of energy we can channel into this particular design, which I think I'm going to run with. Let's see what we can do. You could also think of what kind of tail we want to give this thing. Maybe we give it kind of like a sharp, not a stinger per se, but maybe like a sharp bladed tail, which would be useful for cutting through the ground and being a defense mechanism if necessary. you think of the texturing, again, probably like a glossy, kind of shiny exoskeleton type of outer part, at least on the body. We could even do something like add kind of a plated look to the inside of these mandibles, give them kind of more texture. So if you're looking at the outside, it would kind of look more hard and shell-like instead of more flowery. Hey, first time chat from CRCKT1 Cricket1. How do you say your name? Anyway, welcome to the drawing stream. Whenever we have someone new show up, I always encourage them to please tell me how to say your name because I will butcher it. I can't read. But hope you're having a decent day. We are doing some creature designs and brainstorming. So feel free to hang out and vibe with the rest of the chat. This first design that we've kind of just been tinkering around with so far is this kind of sandworm-ish centipede type thing that I think I want to build on this idea. This is the first one of the stream so far, but I think it's got some potential. We'll look at other potential angles and render shots later. At this point, I'm just trying to put together some ideas for the general design. And looking at the head here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of these kind of appendage-looking things. Debating whether or not I want to make it an even number or kind of space out the orientation a little bit more. Keeping an eye on which kind of direction the body is moving to. Might be able to sort of hide this part that goes back up this way with the tail behind the main section here instead of having it kind of underneath. Like, I'm going to delete that out so I don't keep that in there. Alright, let's see. This, I do think I want to build on a bit, design-wise, and see what we can do. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to separate it out from the canvas and actually scale it up a bit so we can work at a little bit of a larger scale. And we'll keep this kind of sketch layer there for now, so if we do another one, we can just add to that and just keep putting the ideas in one spot. Okay, so this gives us a little bit larger scale to work with. What I want to do is do a secondary sketch layer on top and try and define some of the details, specifically on the head a little bit more. And this is still a sketch layer, so the details will still be rough, but we'll be able to work at a little bit higher detail level because we've scaled it up a little bit, so it's a bit bigger. Now here's where we have a chance to sort of redefine what we're doing with these parts of the head, which I'm going to call them just like mandible things for now. Very scientific. And let's go for kind of an even number 2, and I can change the way they're sort of oriented around the head to make it a bit more kind of like a star pattern. So we'll go for 10. Try and space them out. As we plow further along into October, we're pretty much out of October already. Halloween is coming up. Any of you folks have any specific plans for Halloween this year? Halloween is my favorite holiday, but I haven't done anything for it in a while. I used to make costumes every year, and I just haven't had time. I would like to get back to that at some point. Okay, this is 5. Beware of our spacing here. The Dragon says nope. Is Halloween really a big thing out where you live? Depending on kind of where you're at around here, I'd say it's got a pretty decent participation rate. I live in a neighborhood where there's a decent amount of kids, but I don't normally put candy out or give candy out on Halloween. I know last year, I think it was Halloween night, we did a movie watch for the community Discord. What days did it fall on this year? I was thinking about doing that again. Just haven't gone back yet to see. Oh, it falls on a Thursday this year, which is usually when I stream. I'll have to think about that. We watched Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust last year, which was pretty fun. It's a great Halloween movie. And a great anime movie in general. Okay, I might need to change the spacing a little bit. Drawing says, not really here. Ah, I see. I haven't been to a Halloween party proper in a while. That's probably the type of function I would make a costume for. But I don't really go out. So there's that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. With this particular angle, I've kind of changed it a little so it's more front facing instead of kind of upward and angled, which is fine. It kind of makes this thing look more like it's looking straight at the camera, the person who's viewing it, the intention of eating it. Eating the viewer, the one looking at this thing. Yeah, you, right now. Let's see if we can space this out a little bit better. Hey, Mysterious Phoenix is here. What's up, Phoenix? How are you doing today? Hope your Sunday's going well. Welcome to the drawing stream. We are experimenting with the ideas for creature concepts today. Just kind of like a free drawing, brainstorming session. And our first test subject here is this kind of worm creature. Phoenix says, sick but doing fine now. Ah, well, I hope you feel better. I know we're getting into the cold season for sure. I still need to get my flu shot before I went to California land last week. The week before that, or a couple weeks before that, I got my COVID booster, but I didn't get a flu shot. Since the last time I got them both at the same time, it kind of destroyed me. So I opted to wait, and I'll do it probably in the next few weeks, since I think the drugstore pharmacy near where I live is going to go out of business. Let's see if we can fix this section here. Alright. Let's go ahead and save. I haven't saved once yet, which is bad. Now what we'll do is we'll move down the rest of the body and take the details that we have on the sketch layer, and we will add to them, kind of flesh them out a little bit. Probably isn't going to change a whole lot, but we can do things like texture in the legs and whatnot. Phoenix says, but this reminds me I have to go get my booster shot soon. That's always a good idea as we get into the cold season, cold and flu and etc. season. Make sure we don't taper the body too much. I was telling the chat earlier about how we don't really have a lot of large centipede type bugs where I live. They tend to be kind of small, but I've been to other parts of the country here in America land that have much larger centipedes, and they are definitely unsettling. Somehow I do think they're cool creatures, but I wouldn't want them anywhere near my living space. Phoenix says spiders. I don't need anything else. Yeah, that's fair. We do have a decent amount of spider species where I live here on the West Coast, but there's not a lot of really dangerous ones. There's a couple that are also found in other parts of the continental United States. But in general, spiders just show up here or there. I don't really mind them, but the really large house spiders I don't like near my personal living space. If they want to hang out outside and eat all of the bugs, then that's cool, but they get in my living space, then they have violated the treaty and therefore are marked for death. Now, when I used to live in Texas a long, long time ago, they had much larger spiders there. I saw tarantulas a couple times. Never really had any run-ins with them. But tarantulas are cool, but I wouldn't really, again, want them near my living space. And they aren't really aggressive animals. As long as you don't bug them, they'll likewise leave you alone. Phoenix says, the only place I allow spiders in my house is literally the bathroom, just because there's a window. They'll get in. They'll find a way to get in. Usually when the weather is bad or if it's hot, they need to get away from the heat. I wish I could hire a bunch of spiders to just hang out in my garden and eat all of the pests that get near my plants. Okay, what I'm doing here is kind of following the texture patterns. And we'll kind of rough in more of the details as we go to kind of follow the sketch layer. And we have a follow and a first time chat from Cyrus VT. Hey, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. Cyrus VT says, I like deciding the fate of some spiders here since they can be evil fellas. Yeah, if I had one of those like suction tube things I've seen that lets you just vacuum them up and set them outside, then maybe I would do that for the really big house spiders we have here. The little ones, I don't really pay that much attention to. But it's really more, again, when they get in my living space. But yeah, thanks again for the follow. Feel free to hang out and vibe. I'm going to assume, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, that because you have a VT in your name, you're also a VTuber. If so, then that is awesome. But I don't want to just assume, so tell me if that's incorrect. Phoenix says, is that to be a little careful because we have black widows and brown recluses? Yes, that is true. We have certain species of those here where I live on the West Coast as well, but they tend to not really be in your living space so much as like either in storage areas or kind of out where there's more undergrowth and stuff for them to actually eat things. But like attics are a place to be really careful of those because they can find places to live and they don't like to be surprised. Cyrus says, yes, I'm also a VTuber. Oh, nice. I figured. There are a lot of us out there. We do kind of a mix of content here. I'm working on just some creature drawing stuff here on stream to make up for a stream I missed earlier in the week, but we also do a mix of gaming. Every once in a while, I'll do art-related stuff, and we also do music-type stuff here, too. Every once in a while, we will do... In fact, I need to see if we can do one next week. We'll do a beatbox jam stream where I talk about beatboxing, and we also collectively, as a community, brainstorm ideas for BGM tracks, which is what you're actually hearing in the background. It might be a little bit soft, depending on which track is playing. But the background music that you hear is stuff that I've created as royalty-free assets for other streamers to use. So if you are a VTuber like me and you create content and you need royalty-free music, then it is out there for you to use on streaming platforms like Tidal or Spotify. Which I don't go out of my way to plug my stuff, but for fellow content creators, if you need that kind of stuff, that's why it's there. And a lot of that's created with the help of my lovely community, the Space Bees. Cyrus says, we have lethal boys here, so you gotta watch out. They're hiding in corners. Fortunately, where I live, we don't have a lot of dangerous animals outside a couple venomous arachnids, like spiders. I think in some of the more arid parts, there are rattlesnakes, but they're not as common where I live. Thankfully. I think that's the only other poisonous animal, potentially dangerous animal that lives around here. It's not like I live in Australia where it's dangerous animal city, from what I hear. We got a hydrate and a stretch reminder from Phoenix. I should also save. Okay, what we'll do is we'll run through and sketch out some other details and see how this one kind of compares to the previous sketch layer and see if we want to change anything else, or if we want to kind of cue this one up to be able to go into the inking coloring phase. And what I can do is I can hide the under layer. Oh, I did see Cyrus says that's so cool. Variety is nice. Thank you. That's so kind. Ah, no problem, dude. I am notoriously bad at promoting anything I do. A lot of my peers tell me as much, so try and mention the stuff I'm working on when I can. Alright, let's hide the sketch layer underneath, and we'll make it a little bit easier to see what we've done so far. Oh, I see. Here, let me do it. Red Dragon. The Discord command changed. Thanks for reminding me. Whenever we have new friends come by and hang out, I do always forget to put our Discord link. I think it's one word. We had to change it because of bots and people coming in and joining and spamming members of the community. But if you feel so compelled to join the Discord, you can hang out with a lot of the chill people from the Space Bee community, and also keep tabs on the stuff I'm working on. I post a lot of project updates and announcements in there too, be it random artwork or specifically the music releases. This month's Halloween album is going to be out soon. I'm waiting to hear back from some confirmation for the artist that I was working with. I think everything's done. It's most likely going to be the last week of the month. So the track's coming out for Halloween. The kind of dark, experimental, kind of spoopy BGM tracks will be part of that release. It's called The Lightbane Temple. And I was hoping to do the debut stream next week, but rather than put my artist on the spot, we'll do it the following week, probably in the middle of the week, in the evening for a regular stream, and we'll basically be talking about the project. I will say I'm probably not going to do all the artwork myself for a release like that again. It was a lot of work, and I think I would have rather paid an artist commission doing all the pieces. So hopefully you folks like that. We'll be checking that out before the end of October, and then seeing what lies beyond after that. Oh yeah, I did see that. Red Dragon put the Bandcamp links to another thing I forget to mention. If you want to direct download the BGM tracks that I have released to use in like YouTube videos or anything like that, you can download them for free off Bandcamp. In addition to being able to stream them for like live content. If you want to use them for edited or video content, then they are free on Bandcamp. Just put $0 in the field and you can download them without having to pay anything. And I always mention that people don't have to ask permission to use my stuff since it's designed to be royalty free, But if you make content with the music, I would appreciate just putting a credit somewhere. But other than that, you don't need to actually message me and ask me if you can use my stuff. It's out there for content creators to use. Just please don't steal it. All right. Let's zoom out a little bit and kind of take stock of what we've got here. And think about what we're going to call this thing eventually. We'll worry about that later. But not a bad concept. I'll call this sketch layer. This is what we would use as a reference to ink. I would like to think a little bit about color paletting. Maybe we can actually go all the way through the inking, coloring, and shading phase. I tend to sketch a lot of stuff, and I'm sure it's frustrating for people to see me not actually finish stuff on stream. But let's think about what we want to do for a color palette first. I was thinking kind of a earth tonesy sandy color, thinking about like this thing being something that burrows underground, right? Subterranean creature. So probably wouldn't have really vibrant like stark colors. I'm thinking more kind of like a earth tonesy, maybe with some darker highlight contrast colors. Something like you'd see in maybe like a centipede. They tend to be kind of darker color. They're not very vibrant unless they live in tropical areas, show they're venomous. I was thinking like maybe some browns, maybe kind of purple highlights, darker purple sections maybe. And we could do maybe kind of like a darkerish green color for things like the legs. Now the appendages, I kind of like the idea of them being a bit more kind of metallic, like a tooth or a claw. So what if we went more kind of like this for these things? I think like a really sharp contrast, maybe red orange for the eyes. We could definitely tinker around with the color paletting. It's not set in stone. But we do something like that for the eyes, and maybe we set like a darker color for something like the tail. That's for things like these segments in the body would be something for the highlights, the purple. That might give us a good jump off point. You can definitely do things like tweak the levels and tweak the color settings once we have things filled and color assigned before we do things like shading. So I'll go ahead and save this. Create a new vector layer. Drop this transparency way down. Now, a fun process of actually inking everything. So we'll start at the head. And we'll work our way down like, over the body and through all the other sections. What we'll do is we'll do a first pass with all the details as we put the ink layer down for the line art. And then before we move on to color assignment, depending on how long this takes, we'll go back and do cleanup, this is probably the most tedious part of the overall drawing process. So while I'm doing that, maybe we can talk about kind of the upcoming content schedule and what we're going to be looking at going into next week here on the channel. I mentioned it, I think, yesterday when Red Dragon and I were doing Elden Ring. Next week is probably going to be mostly gaming streams. I may do a jam stream in the middle of the week. I haven't quite decided if I want to make that a permanent thing, since usually I do the jam streams on the weekend. But just due to scheduling for the last couple, they've been during the week on like a Wednesday or Thursday. I guess I can ask you folks in the chat if you have a preference, since I know people are busy on the weekends and I don't expect people to drop what they're doing and come by my streams. If people want me to do the jam streams, since they're a bit more interactive and collaborative during the week, then I definitely can do that. I tend to be a little more tired after going straight from the Earth job to stream, which is why I was doing it on the weekend. But I'd be up for making those a weekday thing every once in a while if people prefer that. So I'm open to the thoughts, and we'll see when I do the stream schedule for next week, because I got to plan around all the stuff I'm doing when I'm not streaming here on Twitch. Phoenix says, I'll try to check in if I'm off during the days you do it. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I would say don't worry too much about your own personal life scheduling. Don't plan around my content for sure. If you're not able to make the streams, the VODs are always available afterwards so people can see what we talked about, whether it's drawing streams like this or gaming stuff or the Beatbox Jam streams. It's all in the archives. Maybe we'll do another experiment next week. Maybe we'll do the jam stream on like, let's see, Wednesday or Thursday, and we'll see how it goes. It's been a while. We've been doing them every couple of weeks now, and I would like to get back to brainstorming more ideas for music and talking about beatbox stuff. All right, trying to keep the appendages more or less aligned in the kind of star shape here. It doesn't have to be perfect. So in addition to looking at doing another jam stream next week. I think we're gonna probably do Satisfactory one day and Portrait of Ruin another day. And then that should give us 3 sessions for the week. Phoenix says, I think the meds are kicking in, so I'm going to take a nap now. Have a good one. All right, Phoenix. Take care. Get some rest. I hope you feel better. And thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us. And have a good rest of your weekend. All right, let's make sure we don't lose count of what we're doing here. There should be 10 mouth appendages. I can already see shading this thing's going to be fun. Okay. Keep adding the plated texturing on the mouth mandible things. And we'll go in and do the teeth. I think I'm going to change the way the teeth look compared to the sketch layer. I've got an idea. Let's see if it works. All right, what we have here is kind of just a row of teeth. But we're going to do that, but I'm going to do multiple visible rows instead of just a single row. Because that looks more horrifying. Let's zoom in a little bit. Makes it look a bit more kind of like concentric rows going inwards into the mouth. I like that effect better. I'm going to put a little bit of texture lines on the teeth. Now we should be able to start moving down the body. And what I'll do is I'll go in and do the legs first, and then make sure we line in the torso around it, keeping the body shape from getting too out of proportion. So going back to the topic of the content schedule for next week, like I said, we'll be doing Portrait of Ruin probably. I'll do that earlier in the week. If we do the jam stream on Thursday, maybe Portrait of Ruin Wednesday, jam stream Thursday, and I'm thinking we do Satisfactory on the weekend, like on Sunday. I do want to show off the latest and greatest in what I've been doing in Satisfactory. I've been playing it since I streamed it. It's not just a purely on-stream playthrough. And I'm still quite enjoying it, and a lot has happened. So we'll look at that in the next session for Satisfactory and talk about what kind of tech has been unlocked. I'm nowhere close to beating the game, but I think I'm at least about halfway. I know Red Dragon's been playing it too. I was giving him some pointers the other day about setting up power in the early game. It's a good time. If you ever want to get into factory and automation sim type games, that's a good one. I was talking to a friend of mine a couple days ago who got me into that genre. This was the old friend of mine who was one of my gaming buddies from way back in the day. And he really liked the automation factory sim building type games. So a couple years ago, he had me try Factorio, which is one of the big ones that first kind of kicked off the genre. Didn't invent it, but it definitely helped popularize it. And so he got me playing Factorio, which got me into the whole genre. And then I went from there to DSP. And now we're doing Satisfactory here on stream. And he told me that there's a really big expansion coming out for Factorio, like, I think next week. It's before the end of the month. And I haven't played that game in a couple years. I played it a lot. And this new expansion is going to add so much more to it. So I do want to look at that on stream to show everybody, since Factorio is kind of influenced a lot of games in that genre since it's been out. But I don't want to be playing that and Satisfactory concurrently. So chances are we'll look at that with that one once we get to a good stopping point on stream for the Satisfactory playthrough, and then we'll go back into the old school for Factorio. Cyrus asks, wait, is Factorio is been around a while. I don't remember exactly when it came out, since it was in early access for a while. It's been in 1.0 for at least a couple years, I think. I played it when it was after it exited early access into 1.0, and it's been getting updates ever since. Let's see, what does the wiki say? It was in development from 2012 to the beginning of 2021. So I'm guessing it left early access in 2021. But the game has been in development for a while. It is a very comprehensive factory automation sim game, and it's going to look a bit more simplistic compared to the 3D game like Satisfactory, because Factorio is top down, it's 2D sprite graphics, but it is incredibly complex. It's a really cool game. And now they're adding space travel and other worlds and all sorts of stuff to it. Instead of being on one seed-based procedurally generated planet, now you're going to get the ability to go to multiple planets that all have different biomes and different environments. all the while trying not to get killed by hostile aliens that don't like the fact that you're creating big factories on their planet. So yeah, that one's been around a while. Kind of consider it the grandfather of the modern factory and automation sim genre. You go back further to things like SimCity and whatnot, of course. But of recent games that really kind of push the idea of optimization, automation, and tech building, that's one of the most influential ones out there. Games like Dyson Sphere Program, which was one of my favorites. We played that for a long time here on stream, and it's still in development. It's not out of early access yet. That, Satisfactory, and some of the other games definitely took a lot of inspiration from Factorio. So it's on the content calendar in the future. We'll definitely be looking at it. I just don't know when. I may check out the update before to kind of see, because I think my original main playthrough in Factorio was over 100 hours, which is kind of chump change in the big scheme of things for a game like that. I think my friend that got me into Factorio, I'd have to go look at his profile. In fact, he's on Steam. I can actually look. He's got an absurd amount of time in Factorio, more than any game on his list, I think. Let's see. This is... Let me make sure I'm looking at this correctly. All recently played... I'm assuming Factorio would be at the bottom. This dude has played more games than I have. So this friend of mine who got me into Factorio has played it for 4,234.7 hours. I thought it was going to be closer to 5 digits, but over 4,000 hours. That's like almost as much as I've put into Monster Hunter. That is pretty standard numbers for a factory automation sim game. They can eat up that much time. Yeah, dude, over 4,000 hours. It's pretty nuts. It's a lot of game there. A lot of things to learn, and always like things to go back and tweak and refine, or start like a new game, new world from the beginning, try something different. The factory automation sim genre is insanely replayable. Or in the case of something like Satisfactory, where, Jesus, I haven't had the game that long. Have I put 100 hours into it yet? Now I gotta look. It's gotta be close. I've spent a lot of time in Satisfactory. 73 hours, and I've had it for like less than a month. Red Dragon says almost the same as my Skyrim hours. Oh, I know some people have got some crazy time spent in Skyrim for sure, with all the mods. And Sarah says the most I have in any game is 350 and is Breath of the Wild. I could see that too. Games where there's a lot of things to do, or different objectives or whatnot, you could be playing them for a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. Get your money's worth. I mentioned Monster Hunter since we've played a lot of Monster Hunter here on the channel. It's my favorite video game series. Across all the games in Monster Hunter, I've definitely got several thousand hours total. Still got to complete every objective I want in Rise Sunbreak before Wilds comes out. I thought I'd be able to fit it in the schedule next week, but it'll probably be the week after, since we usually do a Monster Hunter stream at least once a month, every few weeks or so. Keep going through the end game. I want to build all the things that I want before the next game comes out. Red Dragon says my Skyrim is around 6K. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Do you do a lot of experimenting with mods and whatnot in Skyrim, Red Dragon? Most people I know that are still playing and are doing like a lot of stuff with mods, which keeps the experience really fresh and unique, which is cool. Okay. Keep working our way up the tail, then we'll go and make sure we do things like add the accent lines and whatnot, and then after that we're going to go through and do cleanup, which will be probably the most tedious part so far. Red Dragon says, I used to, but I only use shiny mods, nothing that changes the gameplay. Oh, I see. That's cool. It's just, there's so many different things people have added to Skyrim. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Someone had modded, one of my friends had sent me a link to a mod showcase where someone had put the entire Monster Hunter Dual Blades move set into Skyrim, so you could just dual blade like you're playing Monster Hunter. That's pretty cool. But yeah, people are pretty creative on the mod scene. It's definitely impressive stuff. I mentioned earlier how we're currently playing through Elden Ring on stream. Red Dragon and I are doing a kind of simultaneous playthrough. I want to check out the Grayspawn mod at some point. Once we finish the main game, the DLC and all that. Because it'll probably be completely out by the time we get there. Ooh. Thanks for the save reminder, Cyrus. Oh, Red Dragon, it's the Grayspawn mod that we were looking at, where they basically like added Bloodborne to Elden Ring. Like new areas, and then kind of took a bunch of assets and added them to the game. It's in beta right now, but it'll probably be out by the time we finish mainline Elden Ring. It's going to be a long playthrough. But I also heard, as I was watching Mudahar, Some Ordinary Gamers, and he was talking about the modding community that's been putting together a PC version of Bloodborne. It's basically porting everything from the PS4 version of the game into a functional PC mod. And they're making real strides in progress. I got my eyes on that project. If that comes to fruition and they're able to successfully launch it for PC, I will be playing that on stream. Bloodborne's one of my favorite FromSoft games. And clearly Sony's never going to let them port it or do a sequel or anything like that. So the community said, fine, I'll do it ourselves. And they're doing that. So yeah, like Cyrus is saying, if there's not going to be anything official, if they create this modded port and it runs well and it's stable, then that is how I'm going to play it on PC. It's running pretty well. I think there's still some optimization stuff to get it to run at a really high level, but it looks very functional, especially after seeing the original versions when they first started working with it, and they were just working on getting the assets added in, and like a lot of the graphical stuff was still being ironed out. And so here's hoping that project gets completed and Sony doesn't cease and desist them. I think as long as they don't try and sell it, they're probably okay. But we'll see. I definitely have my eyes on that development. I haven't played Bloodborne in a while. My PS4 is not hooked up, but I did enjoy my time with it. It was difficult. It took me a long time to beat the main game and the DLC. But in the meantime, we have a lot of work to do in Elden Ring yet. Assuming we eventually make it past the boss of the DLC, we have to get back to the main game. There's still a decent amount of stuff to do. I think Red Dragon said we're over 60% through the main game, like the critical path. But I would like to try and see everything and fight everything. So we'll just have to see how long it takes to do all that. Because we've been playing through it using the multiplayer mod on PC for Elden Ring. And been going through everything as a team. Well, 70 to 80% on the main game. Of the critical path stuff, though, right? There's still a lot of optional areas and other things that aren't part of like the main story that are to be done, I assume. Yeah. I want to see all of the extra content, fight all the bosses. So we'll be at it for a bit. I've also thought about doing a playthrough of the first Dark Souls. It wouldn't be at the same time as Elden Ring, though. I don't want to play more than one Soulsborne game at the same time. But that might be down the road, since the original Dark Souls is one of my favorite games of all time. And the HD PC version that came out several years ago is probably the best way to experience that. Red Dragon says, I want to watch you try the Millennia boss fight. Oh, it's going to go bad. It's the Radon fight's been bad. And you said you thought that one was worse than the Millennia fight, so yeah. I'll get my hole stomped by the red-haired lady with the sword. Okay, let's keep making our way down the head. And now work our way past the body and just cleaning up all of the line work here. We are doing the inking on a vector layer, so I have to be a bit careful how I clean up the lines versus a raster layer. Vector gets a little bit cleaner, but because it's doing it from an equation, you have to be careful when you're deleting stuff so it doesn't compromise the integrity of your lines. And for folks who might not have seen me draw before, I'm using Clip Studio Paint Pro. I tend to do the majority of my drawing in this program, but if I do sprite work for like video game type assets, not for a game, but video game inspired stuff, I use Photoshop for that. But for all of my drawing, regular drawing stuff, I use Clip Studio. think it's going to take a little less time to do the body compared to the head. We'll see. Okay, we'll keep moving. Looking further out ahead on the content schedule, since, again, while I'm doing line work, it is not much I can really say about the process other than I'm just cleaning up the lines. So that's why I'm taking the opportunity to talk about kind of the upcoming plans for stuff here on the channel. I think after we finish Portrait of Ruin, which we're playing through the Dominus collection for Castlevania on PC, I think I'm going to take a break from the Metroidvania games, and I want to play something old school, just kind of like a filler in between. I just haven't figured out what yet. Eventually we'll play Order of Ecclesia, which is in the same collection. That's a really good one. But before we jump into that, I think I might pull an old school game that we can play across a couple sessions. I just haven't figured out what just yet. I did want to play through Zone of the Enders, Fist of Mars from the Game Boy Advance. I think Lava would really go nuts because of the amount of dialogue in that game, but it's one of my favorites from the Advanced library way back in the day. It's like a turn-based strategy mech game. It's a pretty good one. But I have all of the stuff for it, and I do have an emulator that'll run advanced games. So that's another thing on the list. I could look and see if I have any good PS2 titles that would be worth playing through. It seems like it's been ages ago since we played God Hand here on the channel. That was a good time. Thought about doing DMC3. That would be a very long playthrough. That game is hard. I don't think it's harder than God Hand, but there's more. There's more game there. We played through DMC5. Was that last year now? Again, it seems like it was ages ago. I also thought about starting up a playthrough of a Monster Rancher game, since I have a working version that I could stream of Monster Rancher 4, which is one of my favorite games. But even though I love Monster Rancher, I don't know if they're the most fun games to watch. There's a lot of kind of grinding and stuff, and I could definitely find things to talk about, but I don't know if it'd be the most entertaining game to watch on stream. So that's why we haven't done anything with Monster Rancher. But I'm a big fan of the series. Been playing it since Monster Rancher 3, way back in the day on PS2. I think 4 is probably my favorite. It's just a shame that there's no real way to implement the technology gimmick from the Monster Rancher games where you put in discs, like CDs, DVDs, and whatnot, and it generates the creatures. Can't really do that on the PC. All right. Just need to go move our way up the tail. And then we're just about done with the cleanup. And once we move on from doing the line work cleanup, we can start doing color assignment, which will go a lot faster because I can fill command all the sections that I want to add color to, and that'll go much quicker. And then shading after that. Another thing I was thinking about the other day, and you folks can give me your thoughts if you feel so inclined, for stuff on stream. It's been several months now, maybe closer to a year, since we finished up the first major playthrough section of Pokemon Infinite Fusion. We did that, I think it was last year now, in 2023. But we played through the entire Kanto region with nothing but bug-type Pokemon on our team, and it was very hard, but it was fun. And I did say I wanted to go back and do Johto, which is the next major continent. And so one thing I'm considering starting up in 25, I don't think it's going to be this year, but I'm thinking about starting up the Infinite Fusion playthrough again. And that playthrough is going to continue where we left off, but the team has to be dragon types instead of bugs. That'll be the challenge. And so that's on the horizon as well. I just don't know exactly when I want to start that up. Because Infinite Fusion's fun. If you've never played that game, I know Red Dragon was working on it for a bit, and I think I suggested some other people too, but if you've ever felt bored of the Pokemon formulas, the games have kind of just been treading water, the official games, Infinite Fusion was the most fun I've had with the Pokemon title in a long time. Very creative, and I got to design some sprites for the game too, so I would like to get back to that as well. But we'll see. That's going to probably be something for next year. Okay, let's zoom out. See if there's any obvious sections that need to be closed up before we go in to start filling things. Things like this, these open sections here are just going to bleed out in the canvas. We don't want that. All right, let's go ahead and save. What I want to do real quick, I'm going to take this palette set of swatches. I'm going to put this on another layer because I'm going to need to have the sketch layer hidden while I'm doing all the coloring. So we'll put that up here so we can refer back to it. Now the fun part. Now we can go in and actually start coloring this thing. I think for the mandible things, these mandible tentacles, we're going to go kind of metallic silver. Again, making them look kind of like a hard shell or alloy. They're not literally metal, this thing's organic, but similar type of look to them. They're meant to be hard and protective. Then we go darker for these little bits in between. For the body, let's take this sort of tannish color. Well, this is not supposed to be. Oh, one color, that's the body. I think this is bleed. This is bleed over from this section that's a little bit darker gray. So we'll just color it in by hand. I shouldn't have to do this in too many other sections, but if we do, we can just form fill it by hand. That's fine. Now I'll go through and do all of the light color sections so that we're doing everything kind of at once. Why is it doing that? There's a line break in there somewhere. Figure out where that is before we move on. My guess is it's somewhere up here. There we go. If we see it bleed over into the main canvas, it means there's a break that's causing the wand selection to basically step outside the boundary. Okay, that's all of the main sections. There's a couple stray parts down here, the underside of the body. Now for the legs, we said kind of this dark greenish color. So we'll fill all these accordingly. Now the internal highlights, we said those will be purple. And then we'll make sure the tail is the same color as these darker sections. The fleshy bits around the mouth, we'll go this kind of orange, kind of off flesh tone color. Hopefully it doesn't look like kissable lips. Not really, but I think I'll make it a little bit more muted, not quite as bright. There we go. And the teeth will go do kind of like an off sandy color. Of course, I can do this manually. And we'll do kind of like a dark, maybe reddish color for the inside of the mouth when we get there. You should be able to form fill the inside. I'll just do this because there are all these small sections. Rather than see where the bleeding's happening, we'll just color it in by hand real quick. It'll be faster that way. We'll also need to do sort of a quick pass on the color layer once I get everything filled, because I'll need to go in there and make sure I didn't miss any sections as I was filling stuff, like these gaps, these white spots. Fix all that, do a quick pass before we do shading. And the shading will be the last step, and I think we'll be done. Might actually finish a whole art this stream. That's madness. Normally I don't finish stuff on stream and I post the results in the Discord later, but I might actually finish something. Let's go dark red for the inside of the mouth. And we said lighter red-orange for the eyes. Okay. So before we move on to shading, we'll do a quick sweep through and make sure I didn't miss any sections on the color filling. I was kind of careful, and I tried to make sure all my sections were closed off, but we'll make sure I didn't miss anything. And we'll be thorough. Okay, I think we're good on the color assignment. Surprisingly consistent for once. Now, the last part of the whole process. We're going to go in and shade this sucker. The first thing we'll have to do is think of where the light is coming from. I'm thinking we have the light shining kind of from above this way, casting shadows over the whole thing. So I'm going to do my best to try and add some shading accordingly, thinking of the light source coming from that direction. I wouldn't consider myself the best at shading, but I'm trying to get better at it. Doing all the Infinite Fusion stuff definitely taught me a bit about working with consistent lighting, since you have to do that for those sprites. So the light should be casting a shadow this way. The way I do my shading... Oops, we need to put this on a new layer before I even get started with that. We want to clip it. There we go. I'll make it so that I can work directly one layer above. Not have to worry about it bleeding outside. But the way I normally do shading is I will do a quick pass of where I want the colors to lie with the pencil like this, and just kind of rough in where I want the shadows to fall. And then at the end, I'll go in and clean it up with the eraser tool to clean up lines and edges. And so the first pass is kind of rough, just to establish where all the light is falling in different sections. And then we'll do a last pass to clean up everything, and then that'll be it. So we'll do it kind of by color. It's usually the easiest way for me to work through, is I'll shade each similarly colored section and then move on to the next one. So we'll do all of the lighter gray parts, then we'll do the darker ones, then we'll move on to all of the fleshy bits. Oh, find a section I missed. We'll try and follow the lighting as best we can. Thinking about it coming from above, kind of casting like a spotlight down. Okay, I think that'll be a good rough pass for that first shade. Now we'll do the darker ones. Then we'll go and move into the mouth. I guess let's do every section that I'm on, then do the teeth, since a lot of these colors only show up here on the head. I do know this is the same color. Again, thinking of the light coming from this direction. On the underside of the tip of the tail here. Next up, we'll do the fleshy bits around the mouth. Now we're going to have to zoom in a little bit and do the teeth. The teeth, I don't need to be super exact on. We just need to shade a little bit around to show that there's light falling on the source, but it's mostly being shadowed because these are recessed back in the mouth. All right. I guess we can, let's fix this a little bit. There's some bleed. And then we could do the inside of the mouth, just shade it a little bit darker, again to show depth. It's not quite dark enough. Might be able to blend that a little bit if we need to. Now do the eyes. Just being mindful of where the light falls to create the kind of shadow effect on the eyes. Let me check something real quick. Looks like the chat got stuck again. I don't know why, but recently the chat feed on OBS that's posted in the upper right corner has been getting stuck and freezing. So a lot of the stuff that people were talking about most recently didn't show up there, and I don't really know why. That's kind of weird. Oh well. To keep an eye on it. My Twitch account's been weird lately. It's been having some very strange issues. That's been pretty annoying. Hopefully the raid feature will work for me today. Okay, let's keep moving. Move on to shading the body. What we'll do is we'll follow the path of the shadow moving down the body this way, which should be relatively straightforward. In fact, we can zoom out a little. I think this part's going to be the easiest because I can actually line in some sections and just fill them all at once. Like so. We'll go all the way down the body and do these kind of lighter pinkish sections. And then we'll do the legs, then the highlights. Then we'll go back and clean it up. And that should put us at done for this piece. Don't want to jinx it. I haven't actually finished something on stream in a while. Now I go up the tail. Again, thinking of the light coming down from the upper left. So essentially we're shading the underside this way. Then we'll fill all that down. Whoop. There we go. Okay, now let's do the legs. This kind of dark greenish yellow color. These parts should be relatively easy. We're just sort of shading the underside of the legs here. Again, paying attention to where the light source is coming from. And it's going to be pretty consistent all the way down the body. My hand's getting tired. Fortunately, we're almost done. Okay, we'll do the last couple of these, then we'll do the purple highlights. And then we just have to clean up the entire shade layer. And that will be it. Might have some time to mess around with some alt palettes for this one too, which is that's pretty fun. Just alternate colors of what this thing could look like, alternate subspecies and whatnot. That'll be the last thing we do before we call it a stream for today. All right, save our progress. Let me test something real quick. Hopefully, I haven't been missing chat messages, but my in browser feed of the chat, it seems like it's pretty up to date. It's just the playback on the actual broadcast itself, for some reason, is stuck again. But I imagine my mods would also let me know if someone said something and I just completely missed it and didn't see it. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're just going through to clean up the lines a little bit on the shading, just to make it a little bit more consistent. Red Dragon says maybe. Well, it's still not updating. Actually, let me try something. I don't think changing the source is going to change anything, but yeah, I was seeing if reloading the source would do it, but okay, I'll leave it for now. I don't want to screw with the broadcast, but it is weird. That happened during the week too. I didn't notice it yesterday, but I also wasn't paying too much attention to chat while we were doing Elden Ring, so I didn't really see if it got stuck the same way. Have you noticed that on your broadcast, Red Dragon? Have you noticed the chat getting stuck? Okay. Now you've had people come through and talk on yours. I know because one of your regulars was talking yesterday. I was just wondering if you noticed it happening consistently whenever you're on broadcast. It can't just be me. I gotta talk to some of my other streaming peers and see. Still haven't figured out what's causing that glitch that keeps me from updating my information or letting me raid. It's got to be a browser problem, or I think it's actually not a browser problem. I was looking at it the other day. I think it's maybe a security or like a firewall problem, because it was doing the same thing in Firefox, not just in Chrome. And it was doing that weird update error when I tried it on my non-VTuber channel as well. So something's up with my machine, I think. I like to think it's Twitch, but it might be something on my computer. I tried messing around at my security settings to see if it was doing something with Twitch itself, and I don't have it like a blocked domain or anything, so it's not that. It's not like Twitch itself is causing a security problem. Okay, let's save our progress again. We'll keep going. This process, while tedious, doesn't take as long. I just need to be careful I don't miss any sections and leave some shading bits where I don't want them. Using this particular eraser type gives the shading a bit more of a hard line instead of a kind of fuzzy, blurred section where the shadow ends. I sometimes, especially with hair, this thing doesn't have hair, but sometimes I will do a blend to kind of blend out the shading layer, make it look a little bit more soft. But for something like this, I don't think I need to do that. I'm gonna go for kind of hard edges to the shadow line. You can also add any sections that might have been missed, but mostly the point is to clean things up. Now we just need to move up the tail. Do these last couple sections, then we'll do kind of like a final inspection as we sweep through, see if there's any other sections that need to be cleaned up. And then we'll take stock of our final creature design here. All right, save our progress. Zoom out and take a look at what we've done. To come up with a name for this thing at some point too, but for now, we can hide the palette. Not bad. I think it's a interesting idea for a creature concept. I think the color works fine, but what we'll do, like I mentioned before we start to wrap up, first let me dump this into its own folder, and then we're gonna work on some color alts, just to play around with some other alternate palettes and see what it looks like. Put you a bit more in the center here. And I think what we can do, nope, that's merging everything. We don't want that. There we go. Okay, I want to create a copy, and this is what we're going to use to manipulate some of the color levels to see what some alternate, I like to think of them as subspecies, but just an alternate color combinations for this particular design, and see what we can come up with. First, let's tilt the color balance a little bit more towards red to give us some alternate options with the parts that are silver, since if we mess with the levels, those aren't going to change because they're, I guess, neutral. They don't have a tone tonal affinity. That's kind of interesting. This one looks kind of like more of a deep sea or even like a polar ice version. We can use this as our basis for another one too. I think we do like a red, kind of a volcanic version. If we push it more towards color balance, even more towards a specific shade, that'll allow us to make it more drastic. I would like it to be more red than that. There we go. If we make it kind of a pure blue. Now if we adjust the levels, we can make it go pure red. That's brightness. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of. Kind of like a molten magenta and red mixture. And let's go for maybe like a green wind. The main elements, right? Earth, stone, or earth, water, fire, and wind. And so I'm thinking mix of yellows and greens for this one. Oh, there we go. It gives us some nice kind of brown accents and darker greens. Maybe I want to put these in back like 2 and 2 so we can see them easier. There. That's a little easier to see. All right. So here is our creature concept from start to finish. Again, I'd like to emphasize the fact that it's somewhat rare that I get all the way through sketching out, inking, coloring, and shading something all in one stream. Normally we do it in phases throughout different sessions, but I do think this might be useful for something in the future. And again, I don't know what to call it. I'll figure that out later. But the original in the lower right, and then these alternates, if we were to use it for different variants or different designs, I think that could work as well. So with that, I think we will get ready to wrap up. I could start something new, but we're not going to get too far. I do have to go take care of some things before it gets too late here. So let me go see who is online that we can raid. It's a little bit late in the evening. Let's see who I know is online. Let's see. Oh, Spectral Noct is online. One of my other VTuber, PingTuber peers, they are also doing art. Yes, they are doing art. We can go over there and say what's up to Noct. So let me go ahead and get that queued up. We'll go ahead and pause BGM. And we'll get ready and go to outro. we will hopefully be able to go over there and the raid function will actually work this time. But in the meantime, thanks for everyone who came and hung out. Always a pleasure talking with you folks while I tried to draw something. I will render out a ping of the worm thing that we did today. Maybe I'll do the color ones here, and I'll put it in the Discord as proof that I actually finished something. So we will be back next week. I think first day back will be Wednesday on the schedule. I have D&D on Tuesday. So we'll be back next week with a mix of Portrait of Ruin, Satisfactory, and Jamstream. Just haven't figured out when. The schedule will go up for the end of the day on Discord and on Twitter. So once again, thanks for hanging out, folks. Hope you all have a good rest of your night. Now let's go see how Spectral Noct is doing on their art stream. I'll catch you folks in the next one. Or the raid feature can be broken again. Let me try someone else. I saw Wazzy was live. Let me try raid her. If that doesn't work, then we'll just wrap, and that'll be that. So let me see if this will work. If not, we will. All right, let's see if this works now. Nope, raids are broken again. That's annoying. Alright, well, we'll do it next time. And catch you folks later.